Hi, this is Fred Copestake, your host to the Selling Through Partnering Skills podcast. Based on the book, the podcast explores how sales professionals can use the power of partnering intelligence to take their selling to the next level. By combining the skills associated with better partnering and existing best practice, salespeople can ensure their approach is more modern and collaborative. There are 6 elements to PQ, and in each episode we look at how sales professionals have used these and how their insights can contribute to your success. And hello, welcome to this episode where we have Tim Royds, who's a director at Highclear. Highclear is a specialist business-to-business consultancy and sales training organisation. I'm really pleased to have Tim on because we do go back a long time, which may well come out in the conversation. And he's absolutely passionate about sales as a profession, and he takes all things sales very seriously, but with a sort of a hint of fun, as look, I'm sure you're going to find out. But look, Tim, thank you for agreeing to come on and talk to us today.
More than welcome, Fred.
Perhaps you could give us a little bit more of your background that takes us up to where we are now.
Whoa. I began in the sales profession probably many years before, I was going to say probably most of your listeners were even a twinkle in somebody's eye, back in 1982, where I'll digress straight away here because this is a mute point. I never intended to join the sales profession, but I did immediately after completing my degree, which was in applied biology. And you're probably asking, well, what's the link between applied biology and selling? And the link is, when I did my industrial year, because I did a thick sandwich degree, so it's 2 years academic, years industrial, final year. My industrial year was down in Brighton, where I had the opportunity to dispose of income of an evening, which was great fun. And even though I was then in paid employment, I still didn't have enough money to finance my fun of an evening. So I had to get a part-time job, and I couldn't get any bar jobs. And believe it or not, I got a job canvassing, double glazing, door to door, which I thought was great fun and challenging. And it turned out I was quite good at it. So when I finished my degree, I thought, well, is there something that can combine my love of science with my love of engaging with people? And I moved into pharmaceutical sales, and that's how it all started. So I started my career in pharmaceutical sales, moving through representative, specialist hospital representative, negotiating regional health authority contracts, training, regional management, looking after about 1/5 of the UK. I had a team of between 11 and 13 reporting to me, depending on the reorganisation we've been through. I'm sure many people can empathise with that. Then moved to the finance sector in a sales training and development capacity, which was a complete change, but the principles are still the same. And I began this business 20 years ago. So my function now is to apply everything I've learned over the years. And I've learned from looking simply at what more successful and less successful salespeople and sales organizations do. I believe that there is structure and process behind our profession. I believe that it's important to learn from objective studies of what we know the more successful and less successful sales organizations do, hence me achieving myself the diploma in strategic sales practice and master's degree in strategic sales management, not because they're theoretical, but because they're based on what we know the real organizations do in the real world. And it's application of these things that basically makes the difference between success and otherwise. And that's what I like to pass on to my clients, not theoretical mumbo jumbo, not the witch doctor types, the snake oil type stuff, but practical, pragmatic application of what we know really does make the difference.
And that's is exactly why I wanted to have you on the show, to be able to sort of talk to us a little bit about that and how we can use some of the elements of PQ.
Cool.
And just for the record, you exceeded my expectations already because you went off on a digression on 34 seconds.
Stop me if I go off on too many digressions.
I knew you would. I had it to about 5 minutes, to be fair, but hey, it was relevant. So look, it's really useful because it does give us a feel for what you're bringing to this conversation, and sort of why your opinions and your ideas will be so solid. So I appreciate you taking the time to do that. So yeah, let's jump in and start thinking about partnering skills.
Sure.
Start talking about PQ.
Yeah.
And I always, when I'm talking about PQ, start with trust, the ability to trust. Reason, trust is the foundation for relationships. Without trust, there's no communication. Without trust, potentially no win-win. So, I mean, over to you. How do you feel that salespeople can develop trust in selling?
Okay. Now, PQ breaks down into a number of different elements. So before we get into the conversation looking at each individual, I think it's important to recognize that they don't act individually. They're all a package together. They're all linked together. They all influence each other. But having said that, for the purposes of our conversation, absolutely, let's start off on trust. You don't do something to make trust happen. You build trust over a long period of time. So this is about understanding that you need to utilize the right behaviors in the right way to build up your personal brand, so that when anybody within the customer organization is asked the question, what's that guy like? They say, oh, he's reliable, consistent. We know exactly where we stand with him. We hear the truth, we have honesty, we have accuracy, all those kind of things. So you don't kind of turn on a tap that says, oh, I'm going to do trust today. This is about ensuring that you're doing the right things in the right way consistently over a long period of time. Again, I don't know how you've done it, Fred, but heavens only knows where this has come from. But you've put something in my mind that happened to me a long, long time ago. And I realized then, yeah, I've cracked this. This is when I was actually selling at hospital level, which was years ago. And I popped into one of the hospitals that I was responsible for managing. And as always, went down to the pharmacy as my first port of call. And I said, hey, it's Trevor there right now, who was the district pharmaceutical officer at that time. And I popped my head around the door and he said, yeah, come on in. Always good to see you, Tim. Have a cup of tea. And he said, oh, Tim, I've been looking forward to you coming. He said, because we've got some stock here that we've got some problems with. It's going out of date, blah, 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 blah. And I said, Trevor, you should have rung me at home. I'd have come in and sorted that for you. And here's the point, what he said next. He said, I didn't bother ringing you at home, he said, because I knew you'd be coming in at some point over the next couple of weeks to make sure we were okay.
Brilliant.
You know?
Quality.
So,
yeah.
That's not turning on a tap. It's doing things in the right way consistently so that people know that they can trust you, rely on you, be there to be doing the right things in the right way to enable them to achieve and hopefully exceed their own key performance indicators. It's critical, partnering, it's fundamental to success.
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant, and it's such a strong message. In an era where we're all looking for hacks for everything. Yeah. Is there a little shortcut to do this? Can I do that? What's your little tip for trust? Well, it's not so much a tip; it's advice, but it's built over time.
Another little thing I'll pass on to you, Fred. Sorry to interrupt you, but I interrupt as well as digress. Yeah, and this is going back even further. When I was going to be employed in my first job, I went to make sure that I understood what the job was going to be about, because I hadn't been employed before. My manager-to-be arranged me to have 2 days shadowing one of the representatives in the regional team. A mature gentleman, very successful, highly respected by his customers. And I remember him saying to me, Tim, always remember in professional sales, imagine your mom or your dad on your shoulder and ask yourself, is what you're doing now going to make them proud of you? And if the answer to that question is yes, you're probably doing it right. Mind you, it assumes that your parents have got good ethics.
Yeah, no. You know what? I am just thinking, yeah, that makes so much sense. That again, a lovely little soundbite, and way in which people can start to apply this stuff. And that's what I'm really trying to get out of these podcasts, of just little things that people can use to make what, as you say, is quite complex. And you're dead right. The whole of all the PQ elements work together, but trust runs absolutely through all of them. Yeah, trust kind of binds them.
But I suppose this will move us on to win-win as well. But this is not about being a doormat.
Go on.
This is about recognizing that you have a responsibility to your own organization that's equal to the responsibility to the customer organization. So this is not about being a doormat. This is about equally ensuring that you build respect.
Talk to me a little bit more about respect then, and that kind of win-win orientation, because yeah, you're right, it does move us onto that part.
Well, by that I mean, there is a certain personality type that is naturally adept at becoming part of other teams. I happen to be that type. And it's really good when you're trying to get close to other organizations. But there is a danger, particularly in this day and age where we're meeting up with our colleagues less and less, that you can begin to feel more a part of the customer's organization than you do your own organization. It's a classic overcooked strength. Now, it's really important that talented account managers, people who are good at partnering, always keep this in mind, because the danger can be that they begin to lose margin during negotiation because of this feeling of, I've got to look after the customer. Absolutely you do, but that has to be partnered, ironically, with an equal feeling of, and yes, I do have a responsibility to my own organization as well. So win-win, in my mind, is not about being a doormat. Win-win is absolutely about being focused on the needs of the organization and the business and personal needs of the individual people within the decision-making unit who you're partnering with, and having very good understanding of their KPIs. Equally, it's about understanding that you are providing value, helping them achieve these things, and therefore it is absolutely appropriate that that value has a price to it.
I think it is so interesting that your default answer was to just make sure you're getting something out of it. You know, and actually I think that makes a lot of sense, because if you look at modern selling now, we're not really talking about, you shouldn't be scamming the person, you shouldn't be sort of doing a short-term, win-lose type scenario, because people just don't really do that, or certainly not in the organizations we operate in, because they wouldn't be there anymore. And I think the changes we're seeing, they're going to be gone faster than ever. So it's quite
well. I don't know where you heard the old joke, Fred, about the sales manager who's down the pub talking to one of his mates who's also a sales manager, and he goes, he says, this is about short-term wins. He said, my people are best closers in the business, they close every deal. But there again, they have to, because people only ever work with us once.
You know what? In all my years in sales, I haven't actually heard that one.
You're kidding.
Oh, there we go. Let me just make a note of the time on that so I can go. No, I can read it in the transcript. I'll read it in the transcript later. No, but you're right. Again, we naturally move into the whole fact and the PQ element, if you like, of interdependence.
Another little story sorry, you'll have to shut me up, Fred. But the first.
Why would I shut someone up on a podcast, Tim? That would completely defeat the object.
The first ever National Sales Awards. This is going back a few years now. I was involved with them. I judged them. I'll support anything to do with raising the profile of our profession and recognising professional selling excellence. And the way they worked basically was there was sales professional in different market sectors, different industry sectors. So there was a sales professional for telecoms, and then each of the winners of these categories went in to compete for the overall sales professional of the year. And that year it was the telecoms individual who won the salesperson of the year. And I judged him. You know, I saw him present phenomenal sales success. He busted his annual target with one sale, and then he busted it again with a lot of other sales. But the interesting thing was his key customer had made him pledge the night of the National Sales Awards. They wanted to be the first people who he rang up if he won, so they could know and congratulate him. Do you get what I mean?
That's
so
fantastic.
That to me is what win-win is about. His sales results were phenomenal, but his customers loved him because he provided them value.
It makes so much sense, you know. And again, you know, thinking win-win, independence, these things are quite close. You know, for me, the other word I'll use with independence is collaboration. I mean, this guy sounds as though he's a brilliant collaborator.
Oh,
He sees himself as a team player, I'm guessing. And again,
right.
I don't know. I've not heard this story from him, but I'm picturing that was it a bit like an Oscar speech when he took the award and saying, actually, yeah, it's me, but you know what? Without my team back at, or did he go, yeah, I'm bloody great, aren't I?
No, he was well. At the actual awards, you don't say anything. You just go up on stage and get it. But during his presentation, when because each of the candidates presents in advance of the awards and then has questions to fill, etc., he certainly made a big play of the fact that it was a team effort.
Yeah, and you know, I say I don't know the story, I don't know the person, but I can just picture that type of individual, and that's what would have gotten that success. They get it, you know, that's what they apply. So, in some ways, you know, whether people know PQ and know the elements it breaks down into, what it does, it models the stuff that, you know, successful people do. They do it naturally. We can help people do it a bit more, you know, a bit more obviously. Recognize you're not one person. You've got departments, you've got your organization, customers. Bring anything in that's going to help you to get that level of that result, isn't it?
Which I get. I don't know whether you're doing this on purpose, but you're rather good DJ style here, Fred. Which I guess moves us on nicely to disclosure and feedback.
Self-disclosure. Do you know what? I think I might go and get a cup of tea and leave you to it. Can you press stop record when we've done?
You should get a job interviewing people for podcasts, Fred. You're quite good at this.
I enjoy it. It's good fun. That's why.
No, because if you think all the things that you were just saying, you don't know whether you are doing them to the degree with which, sorry, let me rephrase that. You don't know whether or not you're doing it to the degree which will achieve high customer satisfaction and high customer delight or not, unless you try to get that feedback. How do you know if you're doing things in the way that the customer wants it done, unless you actually go and ask them? I mean, it's not rocket science when you think about it.
Yeah. And how many times have you come across scenarios where somebody's shocked to find out that they're working really, really, really hard. They're doing everything with great intent, but the customer's just not getting it because actually it's not adding any value to them, or they're not interested, or it could even make their life harder. The stuff they're doing to try to help is actually proving a hindrance.
Absolutely.
And you don't have that conversation to realize, oh, I was doing that for you. You're the only person we do it for. Yeah, better if you don't.
Well, which I know what I'm going to mention now is something that's very close to your heart and indeed mine also, and that is account review meetings. Account review meetings, okay, you want to have a look at the numbers, but that's a little bit like, you know, a coach who's got the awesome challenge and responsibility of training a marathon athlete just looking at times. You know, that's not what drives results. You look at how the athlete is actually doing their approach to the high jump, the long jump, how they're moving their legs if they're trying to run a certain distance in a certain time. It's the actual achievement that's the outcome of that. It's the input that's so important. And that's why account review meetings, absolutely, you want to look at the numbers and what's happening, but more importantly, invest time to have a look at how the account is being managed from the perspective of both the account itself and indeed the account manager, which is the feedback and self-disclosure. And again, I must tell you, I had a very interesting experience with, it was a program I was running on key account management, and it's to a mixed group from different companies. And two of the individuals there were from, I'll just say, a large UK telecoms provider, mobile provider. And To be honest with you, I don't know why they were there, because everything they were doing was just so spot on. I was very impressed with them. But again, it says a lot about the more successful people. They were very adamant. Said, no, Tim, we want to be here, because even if it just makes us think about what we're doing, that's enough. Which again, a trait of the successful. Anyway, point of the story. They told me that, not surprisingly, they have a lot of people supplying them. And routinely, they have meetings with the account managers of their suppliers. And they say quite rightly, we have a number of criteria that we measure our suppliers by, and we mark them out of 10 on a quarterly basis against each of those. And we give them feedback quarterly about how they've scored, and more importantly, why, so that they can improve their game. It says, but interestingly, says, we do something else at our review meetings with our suppliers. We want to know off them how they measure us as a customer, and how we're doing, how they've marked us out of 10 against each of those criteria, and why. Said, and the reason we do it is quite selfish, because we know if we are one of their top customers, we will get more out of them. Interesting, isn't it? So this whole thing, when you think about it, communication, doing the right things in the right way, looking for win-win, developing trust, and then this feedback, self-disclosure thing, it's all the building blocks that actually establish firm, strong relationships. Not massively different, to be honest, from personal ones.
They're not. You could take the elements of PQ and take them into your personal relationships. We focus on professional selling, helping professional salespeople be the best they can. So anything which focuses the mind, and helps them just to consider this stuff, I think helps. Go on then. So what's the next one? Seeing as you're driving the bus now, which I thought was my job, but it's comfort with change. So again, communication, big part of selling. Yeah. Salesperson as a change agent, and sort of the whole change that selling inevitably brings. And what's your take on that? How do you tend to look at it?
It's a very appropriate time to talk about change, I guess, because goodness only knows we're in a time of change. And just a bit of philosophy for you. People are probably thinking, oh crikey, the world, what's going to happen, and all that kind of thing. The world's constantly evolving and changing. It's just that the pace of that change alters from time to time. Right now, everything that was going to happen in the longer term is just happening that bit faster. And moving outside of account management, I'll just give you one for instance. We were always going to be moving to a society that used cards more and cash less. It just so happens that all of a sudden it's been given a bit of a kick, and it's moved forward a lot faster. I've been brought kicking and screaming into the contactless card down the pub. I was used to, oh God, I'm going to age myself now, Fred, aren't I? I always used to watch these youngsters down the pub paying for a couple of pints and a bag of scratchings with a card. What's the matter with cash? And now I've joined them. So, this issue of change, it's constant. It's only the speed of it that alters from time to time. That's all. So where does the salesperson come into this? Well, I think in two ways. Number one, it's important to understand that the world of the customer is always changing. Always. Over the years, and salespeople listening to this podcast will, I'm sure, say, oh yeah, I've got some relationships like that. The world of selling, you develop some fantastic relationships with some clients. So much so that they turn into friendships. And I think you'll be really careful there to understand when you're in selling mode and when you're in friend mode. And I've got some relationships like that, and we have business meetings, and we set the tone at the beginning of the meeting. Okay, we're now in business mode. So we have a totally different relationship. We have it that marked. And one of these, I have we call it a networking meeting once a year, which tends to be the week before Christmas at a pub somewhere. But we do have a business meeting beforehand. And every year I start this meeting off by saying, okay, Stephen, you know the rules. I'm going to ask you the same questions that I probably ask you every year, but I will do it without apology, because I appreciate that the world may have moved on and I need to keep up to date with that. And I ask very similar questions every year. And you know, it's staggering the number of times that he responds by saying something like, do you know, Tim, now you've asked me that question, I've suddenly realized something has changed. When you're in account management and partnering, to assume that the world of the customer is exactly the same as it was 12 months ago, 6 months ago, with the pace of change we're moving through now, even 1 month ago, is dangerous. And frankly, I think it's insulting to the customer as well. Never be afraid to ask the same questions in the same way that you did last month. And by all means, prefix it and explain why, because it's good practice. But we need to understand the world of the customer is changing. It's important for us to provoke thought about how the environment around our customers, our partners, is changing, in order that they can articulate how their internal requirements are further evolving and changing, so that we in turn can match their changing, evolving requirements. Big part of the partnering role.
That's fantastic. I just thought, because I know also, I mean, you do get involved in educating salespeople, and certainly I think at University of Portsmouth, if I'm correct. Yeah. I can just see an essay. You are dangerous and insulting to your customer. Discuss. But that's I do like my sound bites. I try to always capture at least one from everything we do, and I think I've got a cracker there. You are dangerous and insulting to your customer if you think like this, but you don't, blah blah blah. So that's nice. I really like that.
Well, we again, in my own selfish little world, we had our annual I was going to say meeting, it was get together, because it's virtual now, with our accountants last week. We changed accountants a few years ago because the accountant did the same things in the same way. This accountant we're working with, we've been working with for a good few years now. I love him because he starts off by saying, okay, you've seen the numbers, that was last year. Tell me about what's been happening. He takes nothing for granted. He says, well, what's your big challenges going to be this next 12 months? Where do you see yourself being successful? How's COVID affected you? Which of your clients have been more successful? Which ones haven't? How's that affected the way that you do things, Tim? That's what he's interested in. Doesn't even sound like an accountant, does it?
Accountants often put themselves forward as business consultants, business advisors, and then they talk about the numbers. They have a past orientation. But I mean, funny enough, moving on to the last element, that's exactly what he's doing. He's future orienting stuff that you can do to help you. You can't change those numbers.
And you know what?
I might be able to change how he depreciates things or whatever, but it's really, what can I do to help you going forward?
I don't. If you ask me now, okay, what ideas has he given you over the last few years? I wouldn't put it on the podcast anyway. Even if I could remember, I can't. But I tell you what I can remember is, I think pretty well every conversation that we've had with him, he's commented something like, "Oh, actually, that's quite interesting. You've given me a couple of ideas there about a couple of things you might think about doing with the business in terms of the accountancy or the numbers or your approach, which actually could help you." What's that?
Yeah, I suspect what he's doing is giving you ideas to yourself, but I really do not have time to get you started on coaching, Tim, because I have my soapboxes and I know you have yours. And actually, no, I'm being selfish. Well, there we are a selfish pair, really. I'm being deliberately selfish because we have a full episode on that with you just talking about coaching, because I know how passionate you are about that and how much value we could get. But no, so I mean, look. We've just touched on future orientation there.
Well, let's touch on it a bit more. I have a challenge to all the account managers who partner with their organisations that are listening to this podcast, and I've also got a challenge to the managers of those people who are listening to this podcast, and they're pretty similar. And the challenge to the account managers, first of all, is I'd like you to get your laptop and your pad, whatever you like to use, and I'd like you to write an essay which describes how the marketplace that your key account or account operates in, how that marketplace is likely to evolve over the next 3 years, how that's going to impact on their business, and how they need to evolve as a consequence. And once you've written that essay, see how many words it is. And if it's only 3 or 5, you've got a problem. You do not understand the future challenges that you've got. To the regional managers, the managers of the account managers listening to this podcast, here's your challenge. I would like you to make a list, please, on a piece of paper of the times over the last 6 months that you've been coaching your account managers, and you've asked the question, tell me, what's happening in the marketplace that your key account operates in over the course of the next 3 years? How's legislation likely to change? How's the competitive environment likely to change? Who are likely to be the new entrants? I'd like you to list on a piece of paper all the occasions you've been asking questions like that to ensure that they do have an effective future orientation. And again, if you're struggling, maybe that's something that you need to include in your coaching meetings with them.
What an absolutely belting piece of advice, Tim. So, like I said at the beginning, you know, we want to be practical. We want to sort of, well, you said that's part of what I want the podcast to be, you know, practical and stuff which people can apply. That is so doable, and that will open people's eyes one hell of a lot, I suspect. It's a frightening exercise.
If you're an account manager and you're struggling, why don't, I tell you what, why don't you arrange to meet up with your coach? We talk about coaching, but your coach who's your friend in the account, who has respect for you, who wants you to be successful, who wants you to achieve. Arrange a meeting with them and say, no, I was trying to write this essay the other day, just for a bit of fun, and I was struggling. Look, if I brought in some biscuits, could you make a cup of tea and just tell me over 15, 20 minutes how you see things changing over the next 3 years so I can really get to grips with it? Can you imagine anybody ever saying, no, we don't want our suppliers understanding our business? They'd love you for it.
Yeah. I think potentially that's easier now. And again, without kind of going off down the whole to another podcast just about working in the virtual environment.
Actually, having said that,
to say, let's jump on a call, 15 minutes.
Well, I was about to say,
let's have a beer.
Having thought about what I said, of course, it's very difficult to take in biscuits these days. Maybe you could send them some biscuits through the post and arrange to have a virtual tea or coffee together.
It's a virtual biscuit, but the point is, it's very easy to do that now. Whereas that'd be, you know, trekking up, seeing them, because it is a sort of thing that's a good thing to have face to face, and it's never the same. But you know, you could achieve a hell of a lot of that over a sort of just a little Zoom meeting, end of the day, 15, 20 minutes, to say, look, I just want to explore this a little bit more.
Absolutely.
People love being asked their opinion as well, don't they? We know that. So,
absolutely.
Oh, look, quality stuff. Well, look, while we're on future orientation, Ellen, about yourself, you know, what, not your crystal ball, you know, but no, what's Highclere up to in the future? What are you thinking about doing? Where are you going?
Oh dear, I nearly started digressing straight away, because what I have been moving into, I can see will become a core offering, and that is I've been doing a lot more sales management and sales leadership coaching over the last couple of years. Where possible, I always prefer face-to-face rather than virtual, but clearly we're in a different world now. It makes coaching, ironically, that much easier. So I envisage that I will keep moving in that direction. What's been, and I'm going to be very critical of myself here now, Fred. What's been a very interesting experience was a client just after lockdown started here in the UK, coming to me and asking me to put together a development program for a small number, group of 7 people in mixed sales roles in a team who'd never had any sales training previously of any description. Intelligent, qualified, working in a scientific type environment, highly articulate, high energy, enthusiastic, all of really, really good stuff, really, really good material, great people. But they weren't doing a bad job, but a bit of polishing wouldn't be a bad thing. And I must admit, my first reaction was, oh God, in the old days, a 1 or 2 day workshop would be really good. Oh, I'm going to have to design something that's all virtual now. And, even as good as Zoom is, you know. hour and a half, that's plenty. You might get 2.5 hours if you really needed to. So I thought I better split this into bite-sized chunks. And the more I thought about it, the more, and I was working some ideas out on paper. The more I thought about it, the more I thought, actually, this could work quite well. Anyway, to cut a long story short, which, as you know, I find very challenging.
I don't think you've been on that course, have you, mate?
The outcome of it has been fabulous, and all of them have said, because we've had small modules 2 or 3 weeks apart, so people have had the opportunity to apply what they've learned and come back and talk about it with their colleagues. The feedback that I've had has been, Tim, this has been better than doing it face to face. We've remembered everything rather than just part of a 1-day, 2-day event. But they've really enjoyed the opportunity to discuss with their colleagues how they've been applying things and what's pragmatically and practically worked in the real world and the response of customers. And they're in a very, very much partnering type environment. So to eventually get back to your question, the longer term, yeah, I can see my focus on sales, leadership, coaching continuing, because we know that effective sales management has the biggest impact on sales success of anything that an organization can look at. I can see me moving to a situation where even when we can do face-to-face events, always looking to ensure that small virtual bite-sized chunks are more effective, because a lot of the time, even when you have got the option of doing face-to-face, virtual can be a more effective way to go, let alone the extra benefits of no travel, no hiring the premises, etc., etc.
Brilliant. Tim, I suspect there will be people who have heard you talking today that will want to get in touch because they'll want to chat a little bit more and, you know, perhaps take advantage of your services around, you know, the coaching and the management. So how can they get in touch? You know, what's the best way to talk to you?
What my favourite pub where you can find, I should think the best way would be via email. So my personal email address is timr@highclearsales.com, which is TIMR, so for Tim Royds, TIMR, at highclearsales, which is spelled HIGHCLERESALES. So it's timr@highclearsales.com. That should find me.
Brilliant. We will pop that in the show notes anyway, so they'll be able to click on that. And look, thank you. I've really enjoyed chatting.
Could I say one other thing? It's my kind of parting shot when I'm working with groups, when I'm speaking with people. And it's a philosophy I'd like to pass on to all sales professionals who are listening to this BU in frontline sales or management or whatever. And it's something my first ever boss taught me, and I think he's right. He said, you should always remember, in sales, in professional sales, luck doesn't exist. Luck happens. And it happens when preparation meets opportunity. And that's why the same sales professionals are, in inverted commas, lucky over and over and over again, because they work really hard on the preparation. They work really hard to find the right opportunities, either new business or within their customer's account. They put the two things together, and that's when luck happens. So I can't wish your listeners, Fred, luck, but I will say, may you all make much luck for yourselves, both now and throughout your careers.
Superb, Tim. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with us.
You're very welcome, Fred. Enjoyed it.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to the Selling Through Partnering Skills podcast with me, Fred Copestake. If you liked it, why not leave a review? If you didn't, also leave one. Remember, it's all about the feedback. If you want to learn more about your own PQ, why not go to the book website, which is www.throughpartnering.co.uk, and there you can take a little self-audit. And of course, if you want to get in touch to talk about how you can use partnering skills, you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So until next time, keep thinking about how you can adopt a more modern and collaborative approach to selling by selling through partnering skills.